We are back in the trenches of the Canada-U.S. trade war. It is April 2nd, 2025, and I'm here to break it down for you in this 19th episode of Follow the Lead podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Valerie McLaughlin. Today is Liberation Day in the United States, the day that American President Donald Trump announced his tariffs on the world. I want to take you through Mr. Trump's speech and the preceding confusion because there's a lot of confusion. First, I'll start with the Canadian pregame show. CBC and CTV both had news specials starting an hour before the speech was set to commence in the Rose Garden. Katie Simpson of the CBC was live outside the White House wearing a lovely black sparkly blazer. It added a nice touch considering the world was tuning in to see how badly their economies were about to be tanked. The CBC journalists inside the studio were solemn-faced. Over at CTV, Bassi Capello was talking to reporters covering the federal leaders on the election trail, as well as regional reporters. She wore a very nice blazer, well suited for April, a combination of splashes of bright colors with a little bit of pastel, a lot of blues. I really appreciated. Typically, I wouldn't talk about clothing normally, but I really like these two blazers. Moving on to Mr. Trump's speech, he takes the podium at 4:08. I'm not going to play any clips. I'm just going to read from my notes. According to the American president, these tariffs will make the United States wealthy. He notes that his country has been plundered by friend and foe. The tariffs are a declaration of economic independence, he says. It's America's turn to prosper. He's going to use the tariffs to pay down debt. It will happen very quickly. Jobs and factories will be roaring back to the United States. Golden age of America going to come back very strongly. He reconfirms a 25% tariff on all foreign autos. The president then takes a swipe at Canadian dairy, something that he does quite often. Canada has a supply management system, something that the American president does not like. However, I will point out that Mr. Trump renegotiated the free trade agreement during his first term of office. Apparently, it was also a day of airing your grievances because he had a list of them. He talked about countries that won't accept or tariff American agricultural products. He complained about economic warfare, saying the United States can't pay the deficits of Canada and Mexico and so many other countries, before stating that he was standing up for American workers and he was putting America first. Something I found interesting is that he talked about a 1880s commission that was established to deal with large sums of money the U.S. was collecting through tariffs. And he says that the Great Depression would never have happened if America had stayed with the tariffs. Before revealing his reciprocal tariffs on the world, the president says he's being kind as he's providing discounts. And that's when a chart appeared. It was a very large chart. The chart contained the names of numerous countries. It had a blue column that lists the tariffs the U.S. believes it's being charged by the country, and the yellow column lists the discount tariffs that the U.S. will be charging. According to Mr. Trump, China is charging the United States 67% in tariffs, and he is going to give them a bargain discount of 34% in reciprocal tariffs. Now, I'll remind everybody, he's already slapped 20% on China already. So this could be 34% on top of the 20% that exists. The European Union is getting slapped with 20%. Vietnam is getting slapped with 46%. India is getting slapped with 26%. Thailand, 36%. Switzerland, 31%. And South Africa is getting 30%. At this point, I'm scanning the prop board the president is holding, and I can't find Canada. Mr. Trump continues with his speech. He throws out a MAGA hat out to the auto workers in the audience, and then he announces there will be a minimum tariff of 10% to rebuild the American economy. And this is where the president starts to ramble and go off on a tangent. At one point, he starts talking about the Houthis, and my mind starts to wander in and out. And apparently, the CBC has had enough at this point because Adrienne Arsenault returns to the screen to wake me up at 4:44. And Adrienne and her guests are as confused as I am because I don't know what's going on. Rosie Barton says, it's good that we aren't on the chart, I guess. And David Cochran counters that it's remarkable that the world is finding out what will happen to their economies with a prop chart. At 4:53, I switched to CTV, and they are airing the president's speech in full, so I quickly turned back to the CBC. At 4:55, the president stops speaking, walks to a table, signs the executive orders, shows off the orders. He has an aide hand out marker pens to people off screen, and then he's done. And then there's a real sense of confusion because nobody knows what's going on. Because the CBC doesn't know what's going on, and neither does CTV. Finally, Katie Simpson returns on screen. She reports staff members gave reporters a list. That prop board that the president had, that was just one sheet of the 8 pages that reporters were given. Katie says she can't find Mexico or Canada on the list. Adrienne looks confused and a bit skeptical if Canada has skated past these tariffs. So I keep on switching between both channels to see if anybody has a sense as to what's going on. And the likely conclusion is this. So it looks like Canada might be spared for now, likely due to the existing trade agreement that we have with the United States. However, the 25% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum remain in place. As for the auto tariffs, I think the jury's out and the verdict is confusion. Remember, the auto industry spans over 3 borders, Canada, United States, and Mexico. The tariff war isn't over, but it's gone global. I'll be monitoring the situation because the trade war, like I said, isn't over, and it's always evolving. If you want to know more about the podcast or me, you can visit the podcast Substack. Search for Follow the Lead, and you'll find us. I'll try to link it in the show notes. If you want to reach us directly, send us an email at followtheleadpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.